Ayo, what is the hip happening, humans? It is I, Callie with a K, that diagnosed mom, not to be confused with the diagnosed mom, as I am sure I'm not the only one. What is good? It is Thursday. Christmas is done. It is see ya, sayonara, hasta luego. It is like no more. I say that, but we have another Christmas on New Year's Day. It is not I don't even know how to explain it. It's one of those where like you only see a big part of your family for like once or twice a year. It's one of those. I have a lot of those in my family because my family is quite large, and growing up, I was much closer with my cousins, even though there were so many. Super grateful for that. Got and still have a lot of very meaningful, amazing relationships due to that. And luckily, my husband Travis, his family's very similar. He's very close with all of his cousins. It's been really good. I've really enjoyed seeing our kiddos be around a variety of people that love them. They're gonna have so much support in their lives, and I could never ask for anything more. It's been chaotic, especially going through all of my health stuff around the holidays. This sounds so bad, but I haven't tried to eat much of anything. I've really only been eating eggs to try to keep any potential flare up from happening. It did happen randomly, not near as bad as it used to be though. I say used to be like it was a long time ago, but it was like 2.5 weeks ago. So we're on the up and up with that. Hopefully the meds I'm on have been adjusted, and next week will be a good test because I'm gonna have to start incorporating other things into my diet before next week because your girl got a job and is able to start training next week now that my health is at a good stable point. My flare-ups are little. Bathroom is regular, like bowel movements are a lot regular. Not that they're like solid, but that's okay. It's not painful, and that's all I really care about. It was crazy holiday time. Month of December was crazy. We had already had 2 Christmases over the summer. If you have bigger family groups, like with cousins and everything, I definitely recommend Christmases in the summer. You can have so much fun outside, especially when you start to have like younger kids into the family mix. It's a lot easier to not worry about little kids getting cold and sick and everything, and like being able to do outside fun things. It's just so much fun. We did like the tortilla slap face thing in a circle. We did shot roulette. I had a tapeworm shot there. It was super nasty. It was like hot sauce and mayonnaise and like I think all we had was like berry vodka. It was disgusting. Sorry, really gross. But yeah, holidays were great. I want to hear about yours. Of course, there was stress and anxiety throughout just because there's a lot going on and you want to make sure people like your gifts, and you may not like other people's gifts. I didn't have a problem with like anything anyone got me because I'm kind of at the point in my life where they ask me for things and then they give them to like get those specific things, or it's money. Very fortunate, very grateful for everything I get. I am definitely a person that's more about, like, I get way more excited about giving people gifts. Like, my husband got all of his gifts, as soon as I could basically give it to him. But yeah, the kids got a lot. We have since then ordered storage containers to organize things, and I'm excited to put those to the test and organize. So yeah, I just got done with my infusion today. So the topic for today diagnosis that I've had, and then I'm going to literally be giving, I already gave you a timeline, a bit of my life. I'm going to now incorporate the diagnoses that I've had into that timeline and kind of explain each and what was going on in my life as I got them. So it's going to be a little bit of a long one. There's also going to be talk about a trigger warning for self-harm and suicidal thoughts. I'm not getting like further into that in this episode. I'm just going to explain with when and what diagnosis I had those. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to go into explaining anything. I will do that I'm probably going to do an episode in 2 times. So I'm going to do a short one, and then the next long one I do is going to be revolving around postpartum depression. I did research about it, and I want to explain my experience with it a lot more, because I think it's, at least for me, I have not heard it talked about until, like, at all before getting pregnant and everything, and, like, everyone says it's always a risk, and, like, in my brain, I literally just thought it was going to be, like, depression. You know, I didn't understand the connection with getting pregnant and having the baby with it. So I'm definitely going to do a whole episode on that and my experience with it. But I am not going to get into the deep part of self-harm and suicidal thoughts in this one, just a mention of it. And I will give another trigger warning before I say it, because I do not want to cause any anxiety or negative feelings to any of you who know someone or have been going through it. But I do want you to know that, like, I'm here. I understand I can't physically be there with you, but if anything I say resonates, I highly recommend, like, journaling, even just typing out an email. Just sharing it with other people, because it's really hard to go through alone, and people don't really know what to do or how to help you. Same thing with Crohn's, it's just kind of, I highly recommend, like, putting your feelings, at least sharing them with someone else, because I didn't do that for a huge part of it, and it didn't get any better until I asked for help. So, saying all of that, I am going to, now, I did write a script, so I'm going to go off of that. It's important for me to further explain all of these, because you have heard me be hyper, you've heard me cry, you've heard, like, so many things, and I want you to keep getting to know me as a human and understanding why I am the way I am, and it's all based on life experience, and all of that influences my opinions and how things have affected and evolved into who I am today. So, because I was diagnosed with multiple different things at different times, I think it's different, because I'm fairly certain I've had anxiety, like, my whole life, but I didn't get on any anti-anxiety meds until college. And then I think I should have explored it a lot sooner. I think it would have, like, there was a lot in high school, and I think I just never thought it was a problem. But having that ulcer at age 9 due to stress, it was not great, but I managed and survived it. But I've had stomach problems all my life, and if we were never able to get an answer until I was older. So it's crazy that the first time I went to the ER for abdominal pain when I was, I think I was in middle school, that ER doctor said he thought I had Crohn's, and at the time we had no idea what that was, and we're going to look for other opinions from specialists. But it was kind of something that jump-started a bunch, because I have other family members who have huge stomach problems and also Crohn's. And so knowing that, there is some genetics to be said for that. But starting from the beginning of, like, what I remember for diagnosis is the ulcer at age 9. At the time, I was at a private Catholic school, and I was just that typical, I don't want to say typical, but, like, because I don't know what the typical kid was, but I was a kid that was really just, like, stressed out and anxious about everything. Like, I wanted to make everyone happy. I was a huge people pleaser, did not like the idea of lying, but also didn't like the idea of getting in trouble. So I, like, specifically remember in 3rd grade lying to my teacher about there was a girl who sat next to me in class, and the teacher had, like, a reading group in the corner, and then we were all doing other things at our desks, and this girl and I were, like, trying to see how red we could make our faces by, like, holding our breath and, like, basically acting as if we were pushing. Like, I didn't actually try to poop, but, like, holding your breath and, like, trying to make your face really red. And I was facing away from the teacher. But this girl, my friend, she, like, got full up from her desk to try to, like, show me and was, like, in my face and doing it really hard. And so the teacher, like, called her out for it. And then she was like, well, Calissa was doing it too. Yeah, my full name's Calissa. Ha, don't call me that. I'm going to call you Mom if you call me that. It's fine. I love my name. But anyway, the teacher was like, Calissa, come here, please. And so I went over there, and she, like, put her book up so that no other kids could see it. And she was like, were you doing that? And, like, I vividly remember telling her no. And I think I vividly remember that because I'm ashamed of that moment. Mrs. Duchuk, I am so sorry. Like, I know it probably doesn't matter, but oh my gosh, did I lie. And there was another time coming up from music. Music was downstairs in the school, and this was still 3rd grade. My poor teacher. Oh my goodness. And I came up and got a drink, and at school we weren't allowed to get a drink unless the teacher said, like, before we left the classroom that we could. And so I was, like, one of the only kids. I was thirsty. I wanted a drink. And my teacher was like, did the music teacher say you could get a drink? And I was like, yeah. No, she did not. I'm sure I got in trouble for that, but I don't recall what happened. But also, I think that's kind of crazy. Like, we weren't allowed to get a drink out of the drinking fountain unless the teacher whose class we were just in said that we could on the way back to our main classroom. Super weird. But yeah, like, that's the kind of kid I was, like, super anxious, super stressed out, and I would get so red in the face, and still do sometimes. Like, I'm very much more comfortable talking to people, and I could give a presentation about something that I'm passionate about and have knowledge about because I'm confident. But sweats, hives, stuttering, yawning, like you've heard me yawn, turning beet red. Those were all things that I went through up until, like, being a mom, pretty much. Because after I became a mom, I basically just, like, flipped everybody birds and was like, I am who I am because my kids need me to be the best I can be for them. That doesn't mean I have it to go around for everybody. Like, if you do me wrong, if you do my kids wrong, you're definitely, like, we're done. There's just no more bullshit, pretty much. So, yeah, that was kind of the kid I was, and was anxious all the time, and got that ulcer at age 9. And then since then, they had just kept an eye on me, and, like, I had acid reflux since 9, so I've been on, like, an acid pill basically since middle school. And then go through middle school. I wore a sweatshirt all the time, like every day. I would wear a sweatshirt even if it was hot out because of how bad I sweat through my shirts from the anxiety. Like, I was just constantly a fidgeting, blubbering, sweaty mess, and I would pick my face to the point where, like, it would bleed so much. Like, there was a tiny pimple that I probably could have left alone. I would exploit it basically and just claw it. And always, if it scabbed, I would pick it again and pick it again. So my face, especially, like, where sideburns would be, I know I have a bunch of scars on my face, and they're acne scars. I'm working on it. I started a new skincare regimen yesterday, and I'm, like, trying to be very conscious of not picking my face. So I have fidget toys. I highly recommend them if you have a problem picking your face. Just anything to get your hands doing something other than picking. Like, as soon as I think about picking my face, I pick up my fidget. That's what I'm doing right now. I don't know if you can hear it, but hear that? It's a fidget. I'll post it on my Instagram, that diagnosed mom. Follow me. But yeah, I would just pick my face excessively. I would wear sweatshirts. I would sweat through the sweatshirts. It was bad. It was so bad. I would get so anxious all the time. And that's just, like, how I was. And, like, obviously I know family and environment impacts that a lot, but I just felt so much expectation to be good and smart and athletic and, like, so many things. And not that other people specifically made me feel like I had to be, but I remember crying because I got a B. Like, it was rough. It was rough for me. But I, was going through a lot. And then I got diagnosed with Crohn's at 16, so I was, like, sophomore-ish. And that was around the time also where I was in a longer-term relationship, and trigger warning for domestic abuse. I forgot to mention that in the beginning, but it was a volatile relationship, and there was it was just not healthy. It was very toxic. I isolated myself but didn't really know. I was really just caught up in the idea of a love story, I guess, and like high school sweethearts and everything. But at the time, I was doing basketball, track, volleyball, softball, mascot, dance team. Ooh, I think that was it for sports. But I got diagnosed with Crohn's, and this was after like ER visits and all the pain that I was going through, and going through doctors who didn't really know what was wrong, but like kept wanting to do a variety of tests that had already been done. And eventually my parents took me to Iowa City, where they have like their children's hospital is like the best in the state. And I had the best doctor ever, Dr. Ooch. She was the bomb diggity. She was super funny. I remember like the first time I met her in science class, I had gotten really bored and I drew like a cat on my tummy with pens, and it was so evident, and me being me completely forgot about it until we got to the appointment the same day. And I looked at my parents and I was like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot I drew a cat on my stomach. And they just like busted out laughing and were like, are you serious? Like, you knew we were doing this? And I was just like, I didn't though. Like, I don't remember. And so we're all like holding our breaths because we know she's going to ask to look at my tummy to feel it. And she lifts up my shirt and she goes, oh, what's this? And then we all just like die laughing. And I just like turn beet red and I'm laughing. And she just laughs along with us. She was great. I loved her. But she did her own tests and looked at everything, and she was the one who affirmatively diagnosed me with Crohn's. And we started our treatment plan, which was every 8 weeks a dose of Remicade, which is an infusion. And I had to drive, like, Iowa City was, 3 hours from my home, maybe 2. I don't know. I don't remember. And I could look it up, but I'm not good with directions, and my brain is already like, blah, blah, blah. Someone's probably yelling and telling me. But, yeah, we would drive up there every 8 weeks to get it done. And it brought my immune system down because Crohn's is an autoimmune disease. And it's basically, like, it was a lot easier for me to get sick. I really don't remember having that big of an issue with it, with my immune system getting worse. But I can definitely tell that when I get sick, it's worse than it would have been before it. So it would take like 3 hours, and then going into that, I think I was like a year and a half into getting this infusion. One of the times we went up there, I remember sitting in my chair. I always brought homework, and I was doing my homework, and then I put the book down, and I had never had any reaction with it, ever. I put my book down, and I just looked at my mom, and I was like, Mom, I don't feel good. Like, I feel like I'm going to throw up. And so we, like, buzzed the nurses in, and the next thing I know, I could not breathe. Like, my throat was tightening up, and then my eyes were swelling shut. And the next thing I remember was tilting my head back with an oxygen mask over my face, and then my eyes being, like, swelled shut with tears running out of them, and just, like, struggling and, like, hearing things going on, but not really being present. And I was a huge, like, wing, like, eyeliner wing phase, and blue. Like, my mom thought black was too dark and just, like, goth. That's, like, kind of what she thought. I love you, Mom. I know you're listening. And it's totally okay because I was young. I understand. So I would wear blue, and I would do a wing. And one of the nurses that was putting the oxygen mask over my face was like, oh, your wing looks really good. Even though you're crying, like, it looks really good and precise. And I was just like, me being me, as my throat's, like, swelled up and my eyes are swelled shut, I, like, giggle or try to giggle. And then I hear this doctor come in and tell my mom, like, yeah, if her throat continues to swell shut and be closed, we're going to have to take her into emergency surgery. And, like, didn't say it with any feeling or anything, and didn't really, like, try to calm her down. And my mom, like, she sees anyone in pain, and she's incredibly empathetic, very much, like, wants to do what she can to help. And this man's is just telling her that her daughter, her throat is, like, swelling, and if it swells shut, we're just gonna have to wheel her away and cut her open. Like, it's fine. And I'm just like, couldn't you have, like, at least been a little more, like, just a little more gentle? Like, just been like, we're doing what we can right now, and if things progress and get worse, we have a plan of action for that. But let's not worry about that right now because, maybe she'll get better. And then even if maybe she'd want to hear like what the plan of action would be, because I understand wanting to know, he could have just said it a little more gently, like in order for us to make sure that her throat doesn't close up all the way, and like we're able to make sure her brain gets oxygen. I don't know. She could have been so much more gentle. Like, come on, guy. Also, you're in a children's hospital. Like, that's where we were at, right? Hold on, coffee break. Yes, if you couldn't tell, I was eating coffee. And I had food this morning, so, like, you're getting all the energy from me. But yeah, so that was a really bad allergic reaction. And I actually ended up finishing, so I had only gotten maybe, like, a third of the way through of my infusion. And they actually had me finish it afterwards at a way slower pace. So we were there for, like, 6 hours. And it was just crazy. I was so exhausted after that. And that's usually what happens after my infusions. I usually get pretty just like down, kind of just bleh. And like I can push through it obviously if I need to. Like I remember playing or going to volleyball practice the same day as an infusion because like volleyball was my life and I wanted to be able to play in the game. And if you missed like a practice, you weren't able to play in the game. I'm sure they would have had an exception, but me being me was like, no, I'm going to be there and it's fine. Like, I'm fine. And they trusted my word on that. And I was going to be fine regardless. So that's just how my brain worked. But yeah, so I had that allergic reaction and they slowed down. And then I started taking Benadryl before every infusion. So that was kind of like really scary for me. And I was in a different relationship by this point because this was like a year and a half since I had, what's the word? Oh, been diagnosed. So I remember like coming home and telling him, and he was at our house and he didn't really have a reaction. And I remember later my mom and dad being like, we were kind of pissed off that he wasn't even like, he didn't really show any concern for you because like you could have died. Like you could, and I agree, like he really didn't show much concern, but at the point I knew him as a human and I knew that his worry was more silent. And, like, I could tell when he had looked at me, or at least the teenage lovesick puppy dog version of me could tell when he looked at me that he felt bad and was, like, sorry and scared, but also did not know what to do. And that's just, like, a huge part of having an autoimmune disease is people generally just, like, don't know what to do. In my experience, anyway, that's how it's been. This guy had also cheated on me, and so I think my parents were just, like, not a huge fan. Like, we had broken up and then gotten back together. That's a long story. I'll go into all that fun stuff eventually. But yeah, so that had all kind of happened, and then I ended up having to quit track because of it causing worse inflammation in my intestines, because that's kind of what Crohn's is. It's like inflammation of your intestines, and it makes it harder for like things to move through. So I had to quit track, and then the one day I went to try it again, my coach had actually, like, I was like, hey, I really want to try to run and see if like my body would be okay with this. My coach ended up choosing that day to run like a ridiculous amount of drills in like distance wise and sprint wise, and I ended up collapsing on the side of the track in a ball of just pain because of how much it hurt, and like that just ruined any chance for me to continue track because I was just like, I'm not risking this. And volleyball was my life. It was my dream. It was what I wanted. I dedicated so much of myself to that. And then my track coach ended up trying to like guilt me and say like, you run the same amount in volleyball in like a volleyball game that you do in track. And I was just like, I'm sorry. I run 400s in track, and usually I run at least 3 of them a track meet. There's no way that even if I was running the same amount during volleyball, it's not consistent. Like, it's not all at once. It's not at a sprint speed. Like, no, I wasn't about to feel guilty. I quit basketball because coaching was it was doing way worse for my brain, and I was just having knots and worry, and it was ridiculous. So yeah, I ended up just doing volleyball and mascot and like dance team when I graduated. I think that was all sport-wise I was in. Yeah, that sounds right. And then like I was doing musicals and theater and stuff. So yeah, but yeah, so Crohn's just kind of came in and like no one understood, and I was in a small school again. You know, there were 37 kids in my class, and like no one knew, like no one knew how hard it could be. I remember getting the flare up and the pain and having to almost, like, I made my body wait until I had like a free period, and then I would go down into our gym's middle school locker room and lock the door and sit in there for like an hour trying to go to the bathroom. Like, when it hit at school, I was the most stressed out human from it, because I didn't want, like, at the time it was embarrassing, you know, to like have to leave because you're in pain because you need to like poop, and like even pooping doesn't always help. As a as a teenager in high school, like, that was mortifying for anyone to know, and I did not want anyone to walk in, and so that's why I chose the middle school one, because like no one came in the middle school locker room unless they had gym or it was like after school. But I would lock it and I would just stay in there until the pain was gone and I could go throughout the day. And this was like before I even had any meds to help with cramping or anything. So yeah, I took a lot of things to try to keep my pain hidden during school. I mean, there were times where I was in a room on the floor. There were times where I just didn't eat in the mornings or throughout lunch. And looking back, like, it was never weird for me, but I remember it so clearly, and I remember knowing that like things might hurt the next day, or like, I don't even know. I've also blocked out like a lot. I try to remember high school as much as I can, and the things that I remember are just trying to survive, and I wish I remembered more of the fun things, because I know I did a lot of crazy awesome things with friends, and they're just kind of like floating memories that I don't remember, and it's so frustrating. And like, I had so much fun times with family, and like there were so many good things, and it's just it's very frustrating, very sad. I'm kind of sad about it. But yeah, that was kind of my experience with Crohn's in high school, is like hiding. I was very much hiding it, and people had no idea what it was. I remember my best friend at the time in high school, her mom had Crohn's, but so she understood my pain a lot, obviously, because she had it. But she, like, I wasn't able to really learn about diet until much later. So it was a mess. It was a mess. And of course that didn't make my like stress easier. And if I was stressed or anxious, that would, you know, cause stomach tightening and probably a flare up again, and it just chain reaction was just awful. It was so bad. But yeah, I went through the rest of high school, things like always the happy-go-lucky kid who was just secretly in pain, and I think I was secretly in pain even from myself. Like, I think I kept it a secret from myself. I was in like denial that this was affecting my life. Not that, like, it didn't make it worse, but it also didn't help me get better. So then I hit college, and I had like a huge, well, for one, I wanted to get away from my hometown so bad that I found a college campus I fell in love with and didn't really think any further than that. I genuinely think a bigger school would have been better for me, but I thought coming from like a small school that a small school would be better. I don't regret going to the college I went to, because I got to meet my roommate, who is also a best friend of mine. She was in my wedding, and like, we just still talk and hang out and make girls trips and everything, and I appreciate her so much. But I started in August, made it all the way to April, so literally like a month and a half away from being done with my freshman year, and I had the biggest flare-up from a long time. I mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't really talk about this before, but like in high school, I remember going to the ER multiple times for my stomach stuff, and all they could do was give me morphine because like my inflammation markers were up, but that will like, I needed the pain to go away, and so like that's what they would give me. And I could not take hydrocodone or oxy. Like, that stuff just made me feel awful and nauseous, and I did not like being unable to control my body, so it was not good for me. And so going into like high school, I hadn't had any flare-ups in a little while, and then I had the biggest one, and I know it was due to stress. Like, finals were coming up, and I was really anxious, and I had been trying to go through so much of my past in like figure out who I was. Like, I was genuinely trying to figure out who I was and, like, who I wanted to be, and I don't think I knew. Like, I don't think I knew. I didn't have very many friends. The friends I had, like, I've had a really hard time of making friends and, like, keeping them. It's just something that's always been, like, it's so easy for me to make friends, but it's really hard, apparently, for them to stick around for, like, long term. I have probably, like, 4 friends that have been around long enough and, like, have continued communication and, like, care about me, like, I care about them in my life right now, and they haven't, and only one of them's from, like, high school, and we weren't even, like, uber close in high school. Like, we were close in high school, but we weren't, like, super close. So I get really insecure about making friendships because I've always been one that cares way more and puts way more effort in, and I don't say that lightly. It's just, like, it's what people have told me, it's what they've observed, it's how I've felt. Like, drop of the hat, I would come to you if you needed me, if you cried, and then reverse, they would just be there if I texted them and just say I'm sorry. So it was a lot. It was very overwhelming for me, to be at a school where I didn't know anyone, and I was just trying really hard to make friends, but also not know who I was and, like, what I was able to give people. So when the flare-up happened, luckily I had people in my life at the time that were wanting to help me and do everything they could. So they took me to the hospital, got morphine in me. That sounds bad. The hospital gave me morphine. Those friends stayed all night, and I was like, you guys shouldn't do that because I'm, like, high right now and you're sleepy, and go home, yada, yada, yada. My dad ended up driving all the way. So, like, a 3-hour drive to come pick me up from the hospital, and then took me home. And then I tried to finish my classes online, and they said I couldn't do that. So I medically withdrew. And that was kind of hard. That was a hard pill to swallow. I really wanted to be going into, like, psychology, and that was also when I figured out after that was that I couldn't do psychology because I couldn't be a psychologist because I would just take all of that home. Helping people is my main priority in life, and I want to do it. Now I understand that I can do it in other ways, but at the time, being a psychologist was, like, the main way in my brain that would give me the financial freedom, and still I would be able to do what I wanted with my life. But now I understand a different point of view for that. So yeah, that had all kind of happened, and in the middle of that, so, like, before I got medically withdrawn, I had talked to my mom and decided that, like, my anxiety was just making it so I would just overthink and overanalyze. Like, I still do, but this would be to the point where, like, I overthought a conversation so much that I would get nauseous and, like, throw up, and I would just, like, I would cry. Like, social anxiety, I would just not want to do anything, not want to go anywhere, not know how to act. Like, it was bad. Like, it was starting to affect me worse than, like, I ever could have imagined. So I finally just saw my primary doctor, talked to her, went through the med treatment plan of, like, starting it, seeing if we needed to raise it, and then going from there. And I've been on that med since then. It's citalopram. It's been super helpful. I don't want to say I enjoy it, but it's helped me take a deep breath and relax, and then add therapy with that, and it's been great. So I'm definitely grateful that I talked about it because my way of life was just becoming ridiculous. I mean, I was binge eating that freshman year of college, and I wasn't doing, like, my physical activity things that I was doing in high school, so there was just a lot of change for me. And gaining weight, like, I'd always been in the, not, like, I'd always been and had, like, a quote-unquote athletic body, just because I was, like, super active with running and my sports, and I was dedicated, and I just, like, I wasn't doing anything for my body, but I was doing things that I enjoyed that exerted energy. And so going from that to college, where, like, I had nothing set that I was going to be doing, like, I initially had gone early to try out for the volleyball team, but after seeing the dedication I would need for a college sport on top of academics, I knew personally that I wasn't going to be able to handle that stress very well. Because I will definitely admit that I was coming off of a high of all-state conference volleyball, getting invited to a showcase in Hawaii because of my skill of volleyball into like being at the bottom again at a bigger school and potentially not even making it to varsity someday. Like, I will 100% admit that that was going to be hard for me, and I knew that. And even though I love that sport so much, I just, adding the academics on top of it with that pressure and then the pressure of a college sport, personally could not do it. Nope, that's not the word I want. I applaud. I don't know what word I was trying to think of, but I applaud student athletes in every department in every single sport, because you are living and breathing your sport and then adding schoolwork on top of that, and that is just amazing. Even if you've made it so it's less stressful, like, you're still doing that. But just know that, like, that's a lot of pressure and a lot of stress, and some people struggle with that more than others. And if you want to make it work, I highly recommend you find different releases that have nothing to do with your sport, whether it's like art or journaling or podcasting, vlogging, just something else that's a hobby, to take your brain away from that pressure for just a little bit. Because I know in high school, for me, I didn't have that, and I got very caught up in the athletic part of like being an identity for me. So, unless you're planning on going pro, like, that's not going to be your life forever. So just take a breath, take a minute, and be present 100%. Like, enjoy the time that you're doing and spending with your sport. But also just remember that, people in your life that love and care about you are important as well. And you might just need like one day a week, one night a week. It doesn't seem like a lot, but to be able to take your mind off of everything that eludes pressure in your life and just breathe and do something fun. Not illegal, not dangerous to anyone, including yourself, but just something fun. Oh, I say not illegal, but you know what I mean. Not threatening to anyone or anybody. Not vandalizing, not starting fights, nothing like that. Boxing, though. Boxing is a sport, but I would also very much consider that an outlet. I would love to get into boxing. It's on my goal list. Kickboxing, boxing, whatever it is. I really want to take a self-defense course as well. But yeah, so that's kind of what happened. Medically withdrew, all that fun stuff, stayed home for a while. Moving back in with my parents after being gone for like that long was a rough adjustment, I think, for everybody. I had great relationships with my family, but my mom and I butted heads a lot. Mom and I just both had anxiety and stomach problems and just wanted to help everybody, but then we wouldn't have anywhere to like if we had our own problems, we were never focused on them because we wanted to help everybody else. So I think all of that inner turmoil that we had against ourselves came out to each other. And I didn't learn how to approach that or deal with it until much later. And our relationship has only grown and gotten better because we've been able to have those discussions and be truthful and honest with each other. And I love her so much, and I love you, Mom, and I'm super sorry because I'm sure you're crying, and I really didn't mean to do that, but I just want you to know I love you and I appreciate you, and I've learned so many things from you, and you helped make my childhood something that I enjoyed. And even with all the crazy stuff that I went through, like, you were always there. You always had my support, or you always supported me and wanted to help me get better. So I never felt alone in the sense that no one was there to, like, take care of me or anything. You the best, you the best, you the best, the best mom I ever had, the best mom I ever had. But I love you very much. But yeah, so then, like, moving out and then moving back in was just an adjustment we all needed to have. And then I eventually was like wanting that independent phase of, I'm going to go to an apartment and I'm going to do online school and I'm going to get a job and then yada, yada, yada. And of course I picked this like bougie ass apartment that's expensive as fudge and like right across the street from a mall where my job was. So like I saved on gas, which is great, but it was a studio, again, super nice. Did not need to spend that kind of money. Looking like, obviously now if I look back, I would be like, hey, save your money and get a cheap ass apartment, call it good, done and done. Ended up getting my dog, my first dog, Jaeger. Found him on Castaway Pets castaway rescue. Met Trav, like physically met him the same day I got Jaeger. So it was just like, to me, it was like all meant to be. I was like, oh my God, I got this dog and I got this man's and like, woohoo. But yeah, so did all that, had a lot of fun. Our relationship evolved. I would love to, I'm probably going to do a podcast on Trav and I's story like another time, an episode about it, because it was actually pretty funny. But ended up moving closer to his work and a cheaper apartment because we were basically living together but paying rent at two different places. Oh my goodness, my mom's calling. Hold on. Woo! Sorry. So my mom had face called. She's got the two kiddos with her right now because we have our friend coming from New York for the weekend. And my kids decided to both poop a total, so like our daughter pooped 3 times and then our son pooped twice in the matter of like 2 hours. So they just basically saved it for my mom, and she was just like, thank you so much. It was really funny. But anyway, sorry, back to moved into an apartment, an affordable apartment, and then ended up getting a duplex that had a small yard because we wanted something for Jaeger. He had a lot of triggers and aggression. He had bitten a couple people by that point, and honestly, like, I genuinely don't know how we weren't told that we had to put him down, because it had been like 3 people. The first time was the maintenance guy at my first apartment, and we think that one of the maintenance guys came in to change an air filter without telling me, because there was a brand new air filter, and the next time we had seen a maintenance guy, Jaeger had reacted to him and like tried to bite him. And so we think he came into my apartment without telling me or anything, and that was not okay. But after the second time of him trying to go after a maintenance person, we left and gone to a different place, and then there was a guy walking towards me while I was walking Jaeger on a leash, and I tried to like evade him and walk the other way, but the guy came up to us and like stuck out his hand, and Jaeger sniffed and then bit, and got a call about that one. And I explained it as like the guy approached us and like we got a muzzle for Yegs. I'm not a huge fan of muzzles, but I also understand them. It's just like one of those weird things where like, I don't know if you watch Zootopia, not that I had seen it by then, but like when what's his face, the fox, when he's like a Will Fox, and they put a muzzle on it. It's just like so sad to see it. Like they've got a bad like stigma on them, and I think my brain is definitely like seeing that. And when I feel like for a long time, if you saw a dog with a muzzle, people just automatically assumed he was dangerous and everything. So like it's one of those weird things. Like I don't have facts or research on it, but based on experience, like we got Yegs a muzzle because he was gonna bite people. So like that's my experience. But we decided to move to somewhere that had a yard so that we didn't run into that situation anymore. And then we got married, and then we're married for what is that, like 8 months? Yeah, we're married for 8 months, got a house with a bigger yard. We essentially got a house for Jaeger, but that's okay. Got a house with a bigger yard. We came to a realization that as soon as we were going to ever have kids, we were going to have to put Jaeger down, because the place that we got him from would not take him back because they would have to put him down, or they would take him back, but they would just put him down. I had reached out. We had gotten an expert to come in and like observe him and try to give us helpful tips. I had worked in a rescue league and had talked with a behavior like specialists for dogs, and they basically said there was nothing else we could do. Talked to the vet, said that what they would give to him to help him, like, I don't want to use the word relax, but essentially relax could like instigate more aggression in him. And that was like a huge problem, was that he could just become aggressive for no reason. So we knew that we weren't going to be able to have kids in the same environment as him, because like I didn't want to be put in that position regardless. But he couldn't, like, we couldn't give him to someone else. It potentially hurt other people who haven't been around him like we have and don't understand him to the point that we do. So we had also decided to start trying to get pregnant in like February, or just start trying, because with Crohn's disease and just in any health problem, I think it can mess with your body everyone's different, obviously, but I was like, it may take longer since, you know, I have all this stuff going on. It took freaking 9 days. I was off birth control for 9 days, and I'm not complaining because very fortunate. I know not everyone can, but it's just like, it was shocking. Like, there's been fertility problems in my family, and so I just was not, neither one of us were ready for it. But as soon as we found out, like right after I found out I was pregnant, COVID happened, or not happened, but that's when like we all shut down. It's like end of February, early March of 2020. And then, so I went through pregnancy during all of that. It was a big beach whale, lazy bum. And we had to come to the really hard conclusion of having to put Jaeger down, and that was like really hard. He came into my life at a point where I was really struggling mentally with things that had happened in my past, and like I joke all the time, or not joke, but I say it all the time, but it's kind of cliche that like we saved each other, but I genuinely feel that way, and it was really heartbreaking to have to put him down. But he had started attacking people that he knew, and he had actually attacked Travis, and then he had almost broken through our window to try to get to some kids that were going home from school. So those reasons, and then him biting other people beforehand, we just really had to make that hard decision, and it was not good. No one enjoyed it, obviously, but I've never seen the movie Pet Sematary, but I know the gist of it. It's not what I have, I promise, but down at where I grew up on the farm, I call it the farm, but it's just a bunch of land. We had a area that we buried our pets, and so he got put down there in a handmade box with his favorite toys and stuff and blanket. So yeah, that was really hard, but I'm definitely someone who cannot like stay in a house without a dog after having a dog. And so we stayed with his parents the night that we had to put him down, and had set it up to where we got a puppy the next day. So all that happened in March. And that's when Willie came into the picture, and I was fortunate enough to be able to like train him every day, be with him every day, to like potty train, crate train, like everything, because I was home because I was pregnant in the pandemic. So not a lot of people get to do that, and I was glad to do that before any baby came into the picture. But then fast forward, I give birth in October, and that was just the whole pregnancy was slightly traumatic. I'll talk about that some other time, but she basically came like 2 months early, or a month early. I don't remember how early she came. I know my due date was like November, so she came a month early. And afterwards, like, it was kind of a blur. I had really bad flare up for like 3 months, and then looking back now, that was also postpartum. Like, I felt so detached and just like away from everything. And that was when I had started trigger warning again, but the self-harm and like suicidal thoughts and like mom guilt was huge because other people were taking care of my baby after I'd given birth. And then I eventually finally reached out to help because like Travis was like, will you please reach out? Like, will you please get help? I had already been seeing a therapist, so I just hadn't been talking to her because I had her for like a while before then. And so I finally made an appointment with her regarding this specifically, and I finally talked to primary care. I got put on an antidepressant and did the same thing that we did with my anti-anxiety. I'm on bupropion, but basically did a little bit, see if it helped, see if I was still having problems, so upped it, got it to the right dose. And during that time of like trying to take those, like, it finally, I don't want to say evened out, but I feel like I finally got my shit together in spring after that. So from like October to April, end of March, early April, I was struggling with all of that. So it was like a good 3.5 or 5 months of struggling for me. And it got to the point where I could go on walks. And so I started going on walks with our daughter in the stroller, and I found a podcast called Morbid, a true crime, and I started from the very beginning, and I've listened ever since. They got me through so much. Their humor brought me back to like how I used to feel in like my own sense, and their brains, and like Oh, I just admire them so much. And like Ash and Elena, if you ever listen to this, like you got, obviously I know that I did like a huge part of the work, but you guys got my brain to feel again and to laugh and just to like open my eyes to, you just started something that kept getting better and better, and I'm definitely plugging it right now. Like, go listen to more bit of True Crime Story. They have evolved so much. Their beginning episodes are still some of my favorite because they do like, their intros are like 20 minutes of them just talking about funny things that have happened or things going on in the world, or just like, they're just, oh, they're so good. And I completely understand like not having that long of time to talk about those things now, because like they're basically a business now, and they have their own podcast network, and they're just so awesome. I would love to meet them. I would love to just chat with them, because there are so many times where Ash sings a song that is connected to something that Elena or someone else or her had said. And I feel that so hard. Like, there's a song for everything inside my brain. I am a human jukebox. And one time she did like, or a couple of times she's done High School Musical, We're All in This Together references. There's just been so many, and I'm just, oh, I love it so much. Oh, excuse me. My husband listened to them once and was like, oh my gosh, so it's like these two are a lot, like them combined is kind of like your personality. And I was like, oh my God, you see it too. Oh! So that was really cool. Sorry, that was a little bit opera. So yeah, shout out to them again. Sorry, fangirl. I have a sweatshirt of Keep It Weird. I have a shirt that's Keep It Weird. I have a Morbid Mama shirt. I have a sticker. Oh, I just love them so much. Oh, they're so cool. Okay, anyway, you guys want to collab? Can we do a collab? Because like, Elena, you're a mom. You're going through the shit. Ash, I know you have like anxiety and stuff, and I would love to talk to you guys about paranormal shit and like how you feel. I really want to learn about astrology and like horoscopes, and like, I know Ash, you're super awesome at that stuff, and like your understanding. And Elena, I've noticed that you've been learning. I hear you, I see you. And now they have Mikey, who is just he seems like he's the funniest freaking human ever, who is a great addition. And I never like really got to hear him talk much, but it sounds like you're killing it, and I just want to like air five all of you. Oh, and then there's Deb, and I know they've mentioned Dave. I just appreciate the whole Morbid network. Like, I just love you all so much. Okay. And see, another High School Musical thing, like, I'm getting myself calmed down and everything, and I'm like Sharpay going, ma, heel. I'm like a freaking donkey. Oh my gosh, send help. Okay, so I was talking about postpartum depression. Oh gosh, okay. So yeah, that happened. And yeah, then after that, I got all that figured out, and coming out of pandemic, I had been a server for 2 years, and that was really good for my personality, because I'm a social person, and I would joke with my customers and be like, this is my adult time, because I fortunately get to be a stay-at-home mom, but also like that's very taxing, especially like it's like 10 to 11 hours a day sometimes, and I never really put that together. But now I have this podcast, and I have like 6 followers now, so like 5 to me, and my family is very supportive, and like my whole family, like Trav's family, my family, like everyone is very supportive. My friends are very supportive. I'm just so happy, and like I'm in a really good place now that I just hope my health, my tummy gets on a straight and narrow. This is where my like a huge problem for me is. I feel good for one day, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so much better. Like, my body is totally healed. I'm totally fine. I can go eat, like, rice now instead of just eggs. And then I, like, try rice, and I'm like, oh, my body. And then I go, like, back into a depressive, like, I can't do anything. My body, like, I'm not able to be a mom. Oh, and I just need to take a minute and remember this is temporary. I'm doing everything I can to get it figured out. So that's where I'm at today, Thursday, the Thursday after the Christmas day of Monday. And I'm very excited. And the kids are gone till Sunday. So I'm going to try to eat something tonight. Grilled chicken. And I'm going to see where that goes. And then I start work next Monday on New Year's Day. I train next week. And then I will be put on the schedule so I can make some money. And that will help any financial burden or stress that my husband and I are feeling right now. I got some feedback from one of my poems that I entered into a writing contest, and they said they want to hear more from me, and I averaged 8 out of 10 on like all the topics or the critiques that they had for it. And I haven't heard back about my short story yet, so I'm hoping that's a good thing. But yeah, things are on the up and up. That's kind of the story of my diagnosis. I probably forgot a few things, and I know I rambled everywhere, but I'm really hoping you got the evolution of everything, of like me trying to figure it all out. And I feel like now I'm gonna have to do a whole nother one about like my mental and emotional evolution through all my diagnosis. Maybe that'll be my next like fun one. That's not a very fun topic, but I can make it fun. I'll figure it out. But then that one will come out on New Year's Day. Oh, I'll just make a New Year's Day one. There we go. I can do that. And then next Thursday, I will have my postpartum depression one out. I did not post a one this past Monday on Christmas because there's a lot going on. Had a lot of Christmas stuff going on. I will get better. Things will get better in the tune. Oh God, last thing. I decided I need to make a TikTok. I have too many random things, as you all know, based on my hyper mini bid, whatever I said. And they're not all made for podcasts. So I'm going to make a TikTok. Gonna not get too involved in things on TikTok. Like, I think I'm literally just going to do what I do on Instagram and post things and just let it go. I cannot get involved in people's comments or anything like that right now for my mental health. And yeah, I appreciate all your support. I'm not going to forget. I hope you follow me if you want to hear me keep talking in your ear holes. I appreciate you. I look forward to this community that we're going to build together. And yeah, thank you. Just thank you. See you all next time on that. Well, no, I'm not going to see you. Stay tuned for the next episode that will enter your ear holes, coming out next Monday on New Year's Day. Thank you, and follow me for more. Yeah, bye!